Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here today to talk about the passing of Harry Belafonte, who was 96 years old. He was a singer, actor, and civil rights activist. And about a week ago, someone had posted on Twitter a list of iconic celebrities that were still alive, that were approaching 100. You guys know we lost Betty White. Was it last year in January? Last year or the year before? But it was like there was all this talk about Betty White approaching 100. She was going to turn 100 on her next birthday, but she ended up coming up short, and she died at the age of 99. And so it was a list similar to that, and Harry Belafonte was on that list. And for some reason I thought he had already passed away, but then here we are, a week or so later, and that is what has happened. And so the New York Times put out a wonderful piece on his life and legacy. I encourage you guys to go and pull this article up and to read it. But I will share the first couple of paragraphs for it. And then you guys can go and read the rest of it, because it is a very lengthy article, but it definitely does him justice. So it was written by Peter Keep News, and it was shared today, of course. It says Harry Belafonte, who stormed the pop charts and smashed racial barriers in the 1950s with his highly personal brand of folk music, and who went on to become a dynamic force in the civil rights movement, died on Tuesday at his home on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. He was 96 years old. So the cause was congestive heart failure. His longtime spokesman, Ken Sunshine, has shared, at a time when segregation was still widespread and black faces were still a rarity on screens large and small, Mr. Belafonte's ascent to the upper echelon of show business was historic. He was not the first black entertainment to transcend racial boundaries. Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, and others had achieved stardom before him, but none had made as much of a splash as he did, and for a few years no one in music, black or white, was bigger. Mr. Belafonte was born in Harlem to West Indian immigrants. He almost single-handedly ignited a craze for Caribbean music with hit records like Dayo, the Banana Boat Song, and Jamaica Farewell. His album Calypso, which included both songs, reached the top of the Billboard album chart shortly after its release in 1956 and stayed there for 31 weeks. Coming just before the breakthrough of Elvis Presley, it was said to be the first album by a single artist to sell more than 1 million copies. So Mr. Belafonte was equally successful as a concert attraction. He was handsome and charismatic. He held audiences spellbound with dramatic interpretations of a repertoire that encompassed folk traditions from all over the world. Rollicking calypsos like Matilda, work songs like Lead Man Holler, tender ballads like Scarlet Ribbons. By 1959, he was the most highly paid black performer in history, with fat contracts for appearances in Las Vegas, at the Greek Theater in Los Angeles, and at the Palace in New York. And so Mr. Belafonte was also well known as a civil rights activist. But before we get into his civil rights work, the article goes on to share that his success as a singer led to movie offers, and Mr. Belafonte soon became the first black actor to achieve major success in Hollywood as a leading man. His movie stardom was short-lived, though, and it was his friendly rival with Sidney Poitier, not Mr. Belafonte, who became the first bona fide black matinee idol. By the late 1950s, his attention turned to civil rights activism. Early in his career, he befriended the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and became not just a lifelong friend, but also an ardent supporter of Dr. King and the quest for racial equality. He personified that very well, and he put up much of the seed money to help start the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which is also known as SNCC, and was one of the principal fundraisers for the organization and Dr. King's Christian Leadership Conference. Mr. Belafonte was known to provide bail money to Dr. King and other civil rights activists once they were arrested during protests. And in an interview with the Washington Post a few months after Dr. King's death, Mr. Belafonte expressed how he felt about being such a high-profile figure in the civil rights movement. He would like to be able to stop answering questions as though, and this is a quote from him, that he would like to be able to stop answer questions as though I were a spokesman for my people, he said, adding, I hate marching and getting called at 3 a.m. to bail some cats out of jail, but he said he accepted the role. Belafonte's life wasn't without criticism when it came to his personal life. People often said that he reached the level of success that he did because he was a light-skinned man, but controversy hit when he divorced his first wife and married a white woman. And so back in the day, the Amsterdam News wrote that many Negroes are wondering why a man who has waved the flag of justice for his race should turn from a Negro wife to a white wife. And although he was married several times, he was currently married to a white woman as well. And so colorism definitely played a part in his life, why he got roles and why he rose to prominence so quickly. People are saying it was because of his fair skin tone. Mr. Belafonte was married to Marguerite Bird, the daughter of a middle-class Washington family who he met while he was stationed in Virginia, and she was studying psychology at the Hampton Institute. He and his wife had two children, Adrian Bismeyer and Sherry Belafonte, who survived him. And then he also has two children by a Miss Robinson, Gina Belafonte and David, and 8 grandchildren. He and Miss Robinson divorced, so she was the second wife, in 2004, and he married Pamela Frank, a photographer, in 2008, and she survives him too, along with a stepdaughter, Sarah Frank, a stepson, Lindsay Frank, and 3 step-grandchildren. So rest in peace to Harry Belafonte. Thank you for your contributions to the culture, and may you rest in peace. And once again, guys, you can read the full article on the New York Times website. Like I said, it is a very in-depth article and definitely worth the read. Go ahead, leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.